Hello guys and welcome back to Visionary Voices interview. So today I'm going to interview a very important personality, and by chance he is also a podcaster, and s- let's welcome our guest RJ Ahmed. Hello RJ Ahmed, how life is treating you?
Hey, Huzaifa. First of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited and looking forward to our conversation today.
You're welcome that you give me your precious time.
Yep,
So can you tell me a bit about yourself, like your short introduction?
yep, yep. So I was born and raised in Saudi Arabia. I've spent my whole life over there, probably around like 18 years. I'm 25 right now. So I spent a significant amount of time over there, and I never thought about like doing entrepreneurship, anything like that at first. But it's been 6 years since I've been into. I think it's been about like 7 years now since I've been into Pakistan. And when I came to Pakistan, I faced a lot of challenges, cultural challenges, environmental challenges, all of those things. So I had done half of my in Saudi, and then I came in Pakistan, finished my college, haven't got admission into the university, so I had like 6 months free for doing like nothing academic at least. So during that time, I started my online business. It took me almost like 6 months to get my first breakthrough, to get my first sale, and then I was able to like go from there. And it's been 5 years now since I've been in the space, and so blessed. So that's kind of like a short introduction of like how I started, what I did, and what I'm doing right now.
Okay, so that's great. So my first question with you is, can you tell me what inspired you to start your podcast?
Yeah, so the one of the most important reason why I actually started my podcast is because I was reading like some books, consuming some courses, and one of the guy I follow a lot, his name is Russell Brunson. He was actually talking about that you can build your audience from scratch by interviewing experts on your show. That is one of the main reasons. Second was that you will be able to just establish your authority by associating yourself with the people who are successful than you. It's called authority by association, in the simplest terms. So that idea was really fascinated me a lot, that we don't need to build our audiences from ground scratch or from ground zero, and we can like build audience directly from borrowing audience from other people. That idea was so much fascinating for me, so I started to like target, or like I started to think about like what are the people I actually want to not only build my connection with, but also I want to like borrow their audiences into my world. So I started to like make these lists and started to reach out to those people out there. And that's how I actually started my podcast, and it's been around 4 years now. And almost like 150 episodes. Went great.
Yeah, because you have done 150 podcast is good for you because you are not doing the normal guys podcast, you are doing entrepreneurship podcast.
Yep.
So that's a big number. So can you tell me what is the definition of success to you and how it change if it change, and so how do it change over time?
Yeah, I mean, like success is like subjective for one person or the other, right? Success is not the same for every single person. And for me, success have also been changed from time to time. For example, when I started out, I just wanted to like make money to fund myself. That was the first level of success for me. But then I started to make money myself. Then I wanted to like help my, let's say, family or parents to move from our joint family, all that. That was the other level of success I had. And I so it's like you just have to like define what are the level of success looks like for you, so that like when you achieve that, that would count as a successful thing. So yeah, like success have been like changed, but it's like you personally define what success looks like for you, not anybody outside of your world. Because for somebody else getting out of country is a success, right? For somebody, coming back to Pakistan is a success. Depends, right? It depends upon like a person. Uh, so yeah, like success and the level of success have been changed continuously over the course of years, depending upon different things.
Yes, that's great definition. So, can you tell me how do you find yourself in doing podcast with it?
Sorry.
I'm saying, can you tell me how do you find yourself in doing interviews with entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I mean, like in my case, it's like I want to invite people. I want to invite those people on the show that I am willing to learn from. I was from day one. I was pretty clear of like the type of people I want to have on the show. I was like, okay, I want to have like in the beginning, I was like, I want to have entrepreneurs from the ClickFunnels community, and I want to have entrepreneurs who are making at least 6 to 7 figures, which means like $100,000 and above, $2 million. Uh, so I had my target completely clear in my mind of like which type of people I want to have on the show. So which led me to be pretty clear about like which type of people I want to have, who I want to have, and who I want to invite. So that was pretty easy, and it's not that hard to find a good guest. Just to be very clear, when you know like who you want to invite or which type of guest you want to invite. There are a ton of Facebook groups, a lot of communities where you can find people where you can invite them on your show. Now the thing is, as you get over like as you continue your episodes over time, you personally have to get better too. It's like if you see your first episode and see your 50th, and even though the guests have progressed but you personally have not saw any sort of progress by yourself, and it means like if somebody see you on the first episode and the 50th and you're still the same, I mean like the guests have done their job but you have not. uh that's something I've learned too. So if you see like any in a series of like any 1 to 50, 50 to 100, or like 100 to beyond, it's like I have progressed a lot and it is so visible that anybody can notice it. So yeah, I was pretty clear about like who I want to target.
So that's good. So can you tell me how do you find these people and how do you conversate these people to give you interviews, because the people are in the high level don't give interviews so easily.
Yeah, I mean like finding people is not that hard. As I mentioned, if you are in these like let's say for me, I wanted to interview entrepreneurs, and entrepreneurs can be in SaaS groups, software as a service groups, or they are entrepreneurship groups too, right? So like these people tend to be there. So then if I'm like, okay, I'm loving their content, I'm loving their vibe, or I feel like I'm aligned to them, then I would think about of reaching out to them, right? uh, the most common problem or the most common issue what I see people face is like they reach out to somebody once and then they don't try to follow up again. uh, I got after being invited on the session in the Rehan school in evening class or night class. I got invited in a lot of podcasts by the kids, which is like I'm so happy that it happened. But the problem is if I've not responded to someone, and I'm usually what I'm trying to do right now is like I usually don't respond in the first reach out, because I want to make sure that somebody do the follow up. Uh, and the people who have not done the follow up, I've not replied to them because I'm like I want to see, because if I've instructed while in the call, well, while I was in there and I was telling everyone to do follow ups to make sure you're consistently following up, all that, and and something like that have not been followed, even when they're trying to reach out to me, I'm like that does not make sense. So even in your case, like I've replied to you because I saw you've followed up on comments just to ask me to see my message, right? I've already saw the message. It's like I was waiting for someone to do follow-ups. uh, so some of them who actually did the follow-ups, I accepted the invite, all that, because I wanted to check like if somebody is doing the follow up or not. So that's a common mistake what most people do is like when they reach out and they say like it's been 3 days, 5 days, a week, and they have not received a response. They forget about it and they forget about following up too. So which is a problem when we think about in that manner. So in my case, it's like when I reach out to somebody, sometimes it take me like 3 years of consistent follow up to book a guest. But for me, it's like I just don't stop following up with that person until that person's get booked, until I've interviewed that person and I get that done. So knowing who you want to invite on the show is different, but like how you stay persistent to make sure like that person shows up is the other thing. So yeah. that's a difference between like the people who actually do the interviews or the people who actually get the guest versus the people who don't, is the consistency of like following up with those people.
Yeah, that's right. But the music which I comment was very great, and yeah.
Yep, thank you.
So my next question with you is, can you tell me, like you tell me, you have 3 years to invite a guest in your podcast. So you, what do? You only invite one guest, or you have 3, 4 guests in the connections? What do you do that? Because in the 3 years, you I think do some podcast.
Yeah, of course. It's like when you're trying to follow up with one guest, you don't wait for that guest, right? So it means like you always make sure that the your calendar or your schedule of interviews get filled up. So it means like if I've reached out to 10 people, and out of like 10 people, like three of them said yes, I booked them on the show, and the three of the other people who said no, I'll keep following up to see like when they're gonna say yes. And like the other four who have not even responded, I will do follow up. So it means like out of 10 reach outs, I was able to like book three guests, and I filled my 3 weeks now since I'm doing weekly. So I filled my 3 weeks now, right? So it means like now for me to like stay ahead of my schedule for the other weeks to be filled up. So I want to make sure like I still do bulk reach out. So I don't wait for one person responding or not responding or saying no and be like, oh, my guest list is over. I can constantly reach out to other guests too and try to like fill up my calendar. And when the right time comes and when that person says yes, I get them on board and have them on the show. So that's exactly like how I personally like do it, just to make sure that I don't run out from guests, and I don't run out from the schedule too, and everything goes according to the plan.
Yeah, that's good. So, can you tell me how do you feel the people say no? Because when I ask some higher level people, like I interview yesterday, Dr. TPS, he was a scientist. So, how do you think that the people say no? Uh, they didn't respond. So, what should we do then?
Yeah, I mean, like there could be couple reasons why they say no, right? And let's break those down. One is like they feel like getting on your podcast would be a waste of time. They feel like the type of, because if they actually like skim through your profile and see like the way that you're interacting or the way that you're having conversation, if they feel like the conversation might not be interesting, it would be a waste of time for them, because they will not be able to like get any content out of it. So it means like why they would give their time to you when they would not get anything out of it, right? So that is definitely one thing. Second is like in some cases people like it doesn't happen like all the time, but in some cases people would like to like go on bigger podcast if they want to, and which is totally fine too. Like that is if that is something that's their criteria, and that also happens for the same reason. That also happens because they know the host will ask decent questions or it will be a decent conversation, which is pretty common. So like the guests don't feel the vibe of the host is sort of like becomes the most important reason why they actually says no. um and that led them to say no too, right? But if you are consistent enough and you're following up like from time to time, like I don't think about it won't happen. For me, how I think about that is it's yes or not yet, not a no. It's a yes or not yet. So when it is not yet, so it means like when yes, right? So I always like think about in that situation, and I think about, okay, if it is not yet, we will make sure like it happens, and it in the future it becomes a yes. And that's exactly what happened with some of the guests, which took like, let's say, 2 years 3 years to have them book on the show and doing the show, because then I made sure like I've made justice. I've asked good questions, I had a decent conversation which they feel like it was worth their time to be on the platform or be on the show, all that, etc. So yeah, I made sure that their time was valuable enough to
Okay, so my next question with you is, can you tell me, what should I do if someone asks me the benefits of the podcast you are doing, and I tell them, then they said when I call you, you can take my interview. So they don't call me after that. So what should I do then? And
follow
I
up.
don't, I
Follow
don't,
up.
so I don't have their Facebook or something. their social media accounts.
So like how they said you that we will let you know.
I have just her phone number.
So it means like you have still their phone number, right? It means like you can drop them a message. You can still follow up. If you have a phone number, I mean, like you can remind them that hey, they were supposed to like answer you something, either a yes or no. So you can always follow up with them if you have any platform, even a phone number, right? You can send them a message, you can call them, and you can see like how they respond because they said you something and they forgot about it. That could be the other reason. So yeah, follow up is a really important factor into this.
Okay, that's good. So my next question with you is, can you tell me what motivates you to only interview successful people, not the normal people like me and someone else?
I mean, like the main reason why, see, like I've interviewed some normal people too. My last week's guest was a normal people, right? Like that person was he's not making a lot of money. He just recently started to get a little bit of attraction from Grant Cardone's event, all that, but he's not a successful person right now monetarily, right? But the thing was that his story was really fascinating and he was a really good communicator. So that's why I wanted to like put him on the stage so that he can like let people know his thoughts. So that is the reason what how I different. So I've interviewed like some people who were not experts in the past, but the important thing for me to consider is like the people who spent time to watch the content. I want to make sure like their time is also worthy enough to, right? Apart from myself. So it would be really selfish for me if I get somebody who is not worthy enough so that my audience would listen to that person just because that person don't even know how to communicate to a level where they want to like learn from these people. So that exactly is a, I would say like that exactly is a motivator of like why I actually like not interview uh, people who are not successful, or I feel like if I feel like that person cannot teach somebody anything properly, I simply don't invite them. And it's not related to a monetarily amount of success because as I mentioned, like I think last week that I had a guest who was 10 years old when I interviewed him, right? It was his very first podcast, but he did it so well that I was so glad that I was able to have him on the show. Now he's not so much successful in a monetary basis, but he's 10 years old, and that was his first podcast interview. But I knew like he is a good communicator. He can speak confidently. That's what I needed. So so yeah, like I got a ton of people like these that have been or I had on the show.
Okay, so that's good. So can you tell me what what do you like the most about the people who communicate well?
Sorry.
I'm saying, what do you like the most about the people who communicate well?
uh I didn't quite like understand the question.
I'm saying that you said me that I invite the normal people in my podcast,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
they were quite confident to speak. So
Yep.
what? Why do you invite these kind of people to
I mean, like,
your
I want to make
show?
sure, yeah, because I want to make sure, like, I do justice or I can have an interesting conversation for people to listen, right? For example, if I have someone who cannot even communicate and I invite them on the show, and if I ask questions, they're not even able to answer it properly, like, whose benefit is going to be? It's not going to be my benefit. Surely it's not going to be the audience benefit. Plus, the guest is going to get embarrassed too because he's not able to like deliver the content as planned, right? So these are the reasons why we have to like make sure like somebody basic really good at communication is a prerequisite of like all the other things. Like the number one thing is being good at communication in general. So if you are really good at it, you can get all the other stuff done pretty easily. So that becomes a basic criteria of that.
Okay, so so can you tell me what platform do you use to interview people?
I use Riverside, but I used StreamYard in the past.
Uh, why do you choose to select stream? Why do you use to select? What do you just say about? I don't
Yeah,
quite get it.
Yeah, Riverside is the one I use. Riverside.
What? Okay, Riverside. Why do you select Riverside rather than StreamYard?
I mean, like I like StreamYard. StreamYard is a really good sort of like really good platform, and I really like using StreamYard. I've used StreamYard for a lot of episodes, almost like 100. The reason why I switched from StreamYard to Riverside is like Riverside have in their paid plan they have like really good options. For example, they provide like 1080p in their decent, like I think $20 per month plan. They provide 1080p instead of like 720. And if you want to share the episode once it's recorded to your team, you don't have to like download the footages first and like upload it into Drive and then share it to your team members. You can directly give them a Riverside link and they can then download directly. So it becomes a lot more frictionless for us as a as a content agency too. So that's why we actually switched to Riverside. But if someone is actually doing live streams, for example, like let's say if you are doing it or so, in cases like those, StreamYard is better. But if you're not doing live streams, for example, in some cases, then Riverside would be the best bet.
Okay, but I saw your last podcast and it was live. So
Yep,
why
yep.
no?
Yep. So in some cases, like Riverside, if you have a really good internet connection and if your internet connection is really strong, then of course it's better. It's good to use Riverside live stream feature because Riverside do provide live stream features too. But let's say in some cases, if you feel like your internet is not that great, then you can pre-record it on Riverside too as an option. So yeah, you have multiple options in there. But I really like the link sharings real quick to your team members and they can download the footages, all that, etc. So I really like that feature.
So my next question with you is, can you tell me, do you add subtitles to your podcast?
Not really. We don't add subtitles to our podcast. That's something we don't do. Subtitles usually gets used in our reels, of course, but not on our podcast.
Okay, so I also want to make reel about my yesterday podcast on one question that I asked and the answer was so good. I want to make a reel and add subtitles. How must I do it?
I mean, like there are so many free tools right now. If you're using like a Windows laptop or like if you're using a desktop, you can use CapCut. CapCut have auto caption
Okay.
option. Like put the auto caption, like fix the typos, and like your reel would be ready. CapCut is completely free. The auto captions option is completely free. So use that, and you will be able to like use it for free too.
I use CapCut, but I don't know that it have a
Yes,
free tool.
yeah, it have an auto captions option, which you can use inside of CapCut.
Okay, thank you for telling me this.
Yep.
I will do it. So my next question with you, can you tell me how do you handle the negative feedbacks or criticism that people give to you or might
I mean, like,
give you?
yeah. So like it is pretty rare that I get negative criticism, but even if I get negative criticism, it's like that person on the other side is not gonna be the one who is actually helping you out get success, right? So it means like you have to like think about is like how you can actually put that negative criticism into the weight scale, right? You have to always like sort of like you always have to like make sure the weight scale which have the lowest sort of like value is the one which is negative, right? Which means like it does not carries a lot of weight compared to the positive ones you get. If of course you get more negative compared to positive, that's something else. But if you're completely right what you're doing, it's like you don't have any obligation of like thinking about like all the negativity you actually get. Of course, like it does not feel good when you get it, but it's like the person whose opinion doesn't matter and is using using these mobile or laptop to able to like put those comments, the opinion doesn't matter at all. If their opinion doesn't matter, like why should I take it like so much serious? So 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 that's how I actually like think about it. It's not like it happens like too often, but even that whenever it happens, it's like, man, the other person don't have any control on what I will do in my life. So like who that person is who's trying to like dictate me based off his negative opinions, all that, etc.
Okay, so that's good. So, can you tell me if you have any opportunity to interview any people around the world who living or dead, who kinds of people should be that, and if you want to interview a specific person, who person it would be?
uh if I think about living or dead, I would say, uh I think interviewing Steve Jobs would have been like really interesting. uh if uh, if Steve Jobs was alive, that would have been like a great opportunity to have him on the show. Because of course, like because of his achievements in the tech industry, all that, and what he had done, over the course of years of like 40 or more years or so. So yeah, like if I think about like entrepreneurs, business owners, or like anyone in particular, to like interview them on the podcast, living or dead, Steve Jobs definitely be one of them. So yeah.
Okay, so that's good. You, I so my next question with you is, can you tell me about your educational background? What you have
Yeah,
studied?
I've actually done like bachelor's in computer science from Comsets University Islamabad. So that's my um, education background.
Okay, it means that you're not studying. You
Yep,
don't
I'm
have
I'm not
interest in studying.
I'm not studying right now. Of course, I've done my bachelor's. I'm probably considering doing my master's, but outside of Pakistan. Um, yeah, I'm working towards that for doing masters, but outside of Pakistan, like not from Pakistan itself.
Okay, so what do you think? What do you enjoy the most thing you? I mean, uh, what do you enjoy the most thing you do?
I mean, like I enjoy talking to like-minded people. Having really good conversations, I really like. With it could be with any person, but if I'm having a productive conversation that I enjoy personally, I would love to like carry on that conversation. I really like love I love to watch wrestling. That is the thing I love to watch wrestling podcast. I love to listen and watch. um, I love to play piano. As you already saw the video. um, uh, I'm I'm learning and playing piano from 8 years. So yes, it's been a decent amount of time, and not continuously, but it was like it. I just started learning it on a toy piano, based off my interest when I actually started learning it. So I think 2015, 2014 or 15 was something when, yeah, 2015 was the time when I actually like started to learn it slowly, slowly. Again, I'm not an expert even right now because I've not put up enough consistency to it, but I can play little bit decent. um that somebody feel like it sounds nice. So yeah, I love to play piano too. So
Okay, so can you tell me how do you find interest to play piano and watch wrestling? Most the Pakistani people watch a cricket match. How do you
yeah,
find interest in wrestling?
I mean, like I was not in Pakistan, first of all. I was in Saudi Arabia, and I've been watching wrestling from a decent amount of time, like probably from 2009. So it's been like what, uh, 15 years, since I've been watching wrestling, even when I was a kid. So of course, when I was in Saudi Arabia, I was watching that, and that was like one source of entertainment for us. It's not like we weren't playing like cricket as kids, but of course we were doing it. But I really like to watch wrestling. And with piano, like I don't like I've heard some songs which I really liked, and I wanted to learn piano. So I started to learn it first on mobile, because there are a lot of mobile apps for playing piano. Started to learn from there, started to play over there, and then bought a little toy piano. I still have it, a little toy piano, and then from that I just went in and bought some other pianos. Like as soon as I get, as soon as I got better over time, I started like, you know I bought like better pianos, and it started to get better into the craft too. So yeah, that's how it worked for me.
Okay, so that's good. So my next question with you is, can you tell me what books and what podcast inspire you to take podcast or interview?
Sorry.
I'm saying, can you give me some name of podcast and books that inspire you to take podcast with other people?
Yes. Yes. Some of the books I would recommend is .com Secrets and Traffic Secrets by Russell Brunson. Definitely was a key point for me for me to learn or get the idea about starting a podcast. So .com Secrets and Traffic Secrets by Russell Brunson. The other guys I follow is guys like Umar Ilatar from the Passionate Few. He have such an amazing podcast. He have interviewed like some amazing entrepreneurs, guys like co-founder of Netflix, from like co-founder of Reebok, like some of the biggest names in the industry. And there are other people too, like guys like Pat Flynn, John Lee Dumas. Like these type of people like help me to understand how podcast stuff works. And Joe Rogan, of course, like his podcast is amazing. I really enjoyed like some of his podcast episodes with Naval Ravikant or with Elon Musk, all that, etc. So yeah, there were a handful amount of people out there that helped me to like love the process of doing the podcast, or uh, help me understood the value of doing a podcast, and how it can be beneficial. So so yeah, these are like some books and some people who actually like influenced a lot.
Okay, so that's great. So my next question with you is, can you tell me what do you enjoy the most about the podcast?
I mean, like, I love as I said earlier, like I love having conversation with these people, because of course, since they're successful, I would love to understand their mindset around success, around the mindset, or around like what it took them to be successful, how they overcame the failures, what their mindset looked like, all that. So it gives a great opportunity from like just watching them to having them on the show and then ask the questions is a great thing. And I've been able to like interview some people that I was watching when I was a kid, guys like Derry Leaves, who was a coach for Mr. Beast. I was watching him when I was 12 years old, and 10 years later, I interviewed him on the show, and I told him like, "Hey, man, I was 12 years old when I was watching your content on YouTube, how to make money online using YouTube, but now I got the opportunity for having you on the show." So like things like that just made me like a lot more grateful around like doing the shows, doing the podcast, all that, etc. So I really liked things like that.
Okay, so do you think you must interview Mr. Beast?
Well, yeah, I mean, like anytime if we get the opportunity in the future, why not? And you never know, right? You never know. Sometimes you never know like who you will be able to like interview on the show. There were a lot of people out there I never thought about like I will be able to like do it, but it happened, right? So they are endless possibilities. Once you start to get better and better over time, there are endless possibilities like how things can progress for you. You never know when Mr. Beast comes, right? He could come. You never know, right? And I could be the very first person from Pakistan who's been able to like get him on the show. So right, so you never know about it.
So that's good. So my next question will be, can you tell me, if I want to interview Mr. Beast, how must I go to him and how must I make the connection with him?
I mean, just think about like how many subscribers he have, right? He have over 300 million subscribers just on his one YouTube channel. Like forget about like all the others. So it means like you have to. There's a lot of effort involved, of course, because there are a lot of members in his team that would be gatekeepers of him. So to be honest, like I'm personally figuring out myself. But I think about is like somewhere, like if somebody who is like closer in his team, first of all, like figuring out like who are those people who's working under his team, who could possibly be his closest assistants, right? And then either try to build relationship with their assistant first, and so that you'll be able to get the access of Mr. Beast sooner or later down the road. And that's a really good approach, because when you became friend with the gatekeeper, the gatekeeper will allow you to pass the gate now. So yeah, like that is a basic concept of like how it actually looks like. Now how it will eventually happen is something, could be something else, right? Based of like somebody's experimenting it. If I'll be able to do it, I'll let you know how that goes. So yeah.
So that's good. So my next question with you, can you tell me how do interviewing people like successful people change your perspective on the definition of success?
I mean, of course, my perspective have changed after like interviewing these people, because as I mentioned, success is defined by you. That is what important. Other person, if that person says you're not successful, he could be right in his own world, but you're the person who's defining what success looks like for you personally. Nobody should be able to dictate you of like what success actually looks like. If you are happy and content where you are, and that you count that as success, and you're not miserable also, you're completely fine. So you have to be happy, content in all formats, and if you feel like you are content, you're good. Because nobody then, because the problem with that is like, if you are content and you're happy, if that's your success, nobody can force you to go beyond that if that is your contention level. So it means like external forces cannot dictate what success looks like or means for you, or where you count yourself successful, because you're the one who's planning to take the next step if you want to. So I've learned it, and now I just like keep it implemented. So it means like anybody in my circle who gets successful, I root for them, I becomes happy for them, but that does not count for me. I have a different goal or route for becoming successful for my own self, and I have to follow that. And in my mind, that is the lead of me being successful, right? It's not like what others are dictating me about. So yeah, I listen what other people say, but then I do what I want to do.
Okay, so that's good. So can you tell me a more important lesson you learned from interviewing people, and you think that lesson should learn by everyone in the world?
Of course, lessons should learn by everyone from the world, everyone in the world, even though that is a good person or bad. Because from a bad person, you can also learn some lessons too, or like what you should not do again. Lessons should be learned from parents too, right? You have to learn from parents what are the things you should do or you shouldn't do, also. Of course, like I've learned a lot of lessons. Just think about like if I pick like one lesson every guest, these are like 150 lessons which I didn't had, right? And I'm just thinking about like one. If I think about two, it's like 300 lessons. And if I try to apply like some of them and it work, like that boosts the growth overall. So yeah, I mean, like lessons are definitely important, and it depends upon like how you consume it. When I get on podcasts with these guests which I know are successful, I stay there as a sponge, so that I try to consume stuff which are necessary for me to get better the next time, with the next person, and also expanding my knowledge when I don't have that. So yes.
So that's good. So can you give me a lesson so I can learn from you and
Yeah.
use it on my life?
Yeah, I would say like how old are you right now?
I'm 12.
Okay, you're 12. I would say is comparison is a thief of joy. Okay, so which means if you compare yourself with other people, you will lead to nowhere. And when someone is young, they're comparing on a lot of different things, right? They're comparing that person have, let's say, PS4 or PS5, you don't have one. Right? That's like one thing. That person have toys, you don't have one, and that's all of these ends up being comparisons, and that leads you to be unhappy just because of you try to compare with other person, and also negatively. uh like I when I was like, let's say, 10 or 12 or all that, like a lot of my friends were having like have bought these console games like way earlier than me, right? Because we didn't had a lot of money, so like they bought like PS2 earlier than me. uh and I was just like one watching them or be in their house like watching them play games, all that. Even the PS1 when they had it, when I was like, more younger. But then when I and I was comparing them also, like, because we didn't had one, and we had this like sort of like scarcity, all that things like that does not actually goes anywhere. It stays there. So when I started like earn a little bit money, and when I bought PS4, nobody had in my circle prior to me. And then later down the road, the things I've started to do, for example, like building the studio, be able to like fly out or like, travel into different countries, nobody have done that in my circle. So it means like the things that they try to like work on, be happy about it. Now what I'm doing is like pretty far away from their mind, even in general. So so it's like if somebody have something and you don't have it right now, you don't have to like compare yourself with them. Things will come to you over time, and and you will still be happy about it, right? You would be unhappy just right now, but if you think about 5 years later, you're going to be like, oh, that's a silly move. Why was I crying for that particular thing, right? So I would say comparison is a thief of joy, and don't compare yourself with other people. Compare yourself with you. Compare yourself with you. So it's you versus you, or you versus yesterday. So always get better over time in any and everything, and you can go from there. So that would be my lesson to you.
Okay, thank you. Your lesson is very precious. So, guys, today we interview RJ Ahmed. So, I personally like him so much. You also comment me and tell me how do you like him. So, meet you with another podcast. Till then, Allah Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz.